Welcome to the first episode of AFK Chat with Ender and James. I'm Ender. That other guy over there is James. How you doing today, James?
Awesome. Just trying to decide if this was our actual take or we're going to redo it.
No, this is the actual one. I'm not going back. I'm not talking again. You can take whatever I said there and just plop it in front of wherever you want to start. I don't really care.
Listen, I just want to, can I put out a disclaimer for anyone that has decided to go on this adventure with us? And if you have heard from us before, I don't even want to talk about the names we've had. There's been a lot of trial and error, and we are about to go down an adventure that we plan to 100% stick with, because if we do not stick with this one, I think we're done.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And whether or not we, you're gonna see a lot of changes over the time as we learn and do different things. But we keep going back and forth, starting new things, going through it, and I think it was a journey that we needed to learn.
Yeah, 100%.
To understand the importance around the consistency and the world that we want to live in and do. Life gets crazy. We can't guarantee everything is going to be as consistent as we wanted it to be, but we keep coming back, and now we have found that it's just us. We started with a lot.
Yeah.
Started with a lot of other people that have come through all of these different things, committed, not committed, started, and we're down to just me and you, who for some odd reason continue to stay on this weird journey, and for some weird reason like to continue to talk to each other about the same stupid things, and we're hoping that everyone else out there enjoys them. And that's kind of what we're going to go over this first episode, is just to get to know James and I, what to expect from this podcast, what you're going to get. This is a video game news review channel, but we're going to be more focused around the things that we like. We're not just going to give you everything in the news industry. We're going to have some news segments, so we'll mention it. We'll let you know what's going on when there's big news that's out there in the world. And then we'll probably dive into some of the favorite games that we like to play, what's coming out. Example, I'm never going to sit down and play Baldur's Gate. Not my kind of game. But James might go and dabble in it because that's his world. We have very differing styles of games that we like to play on our own versus what we play together co-op. And co-op is mostly around the Battle Royale world.
Yeah,
like that's what we play.
And
the Tarkovs,
what do you call them? The crafting games.
Survival
crafting games.
Yeah, the survival crafting games. Like the big one now everyone's gonna know is Fortnite Legos. Games like that. Because I think it got a lot of people into the genre, kind of opened that genre up a little bit for people to start playing. Even though it's more of the Minecraft world, which we never really got into Minecraft.
No.
But survival games in general, horror, survival, the forest, some of the other ones that are
the day before. Those are solid games.
How did that work out for you?
I got my refund from Steam, so that worked out great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as you got your refund.
Put 25 hours in it, and Steam automatically refunded
all the
me.
Things, yeah, Steam did the right thing there. I was glad that they did the right thing on that game, but man, but you can't knock them. They did launch a game.
They did. Listen,
they weren't gonna launch it. They did launch it.
They did launch it. And in all fairness, the bugs weren't any different than some AAA games that get launched. So,
very true. I mean, we've been waiting. Half of those bugs were the same that Tarkov still has.
Yeah,
that they were playing, and I wanted to play and never actually got. I got sick. Right as the game came, right. And I wasn't able to download it. I never got to download it. It was on my wish list. Needless to say, they took it off my wish list. It's no longer there. So I won't be playing that. So, James, starting off with the first question that I think the world wants to know. How did you get into the gaming world, social media, podcasts?
Whoa, the gaming world or social media?
Well, let's just say the gaming world first, and then how did you transition that into wanting to talk about it into video game podcasting and things like that?
So I grew up definitely old school.
Industry news,
I'm a little bit old school with games. The first video game system that I remember playing is the ColecoVision, and that's what my father had, and he had Donkey Kong and a game called Venture, which some people I think it got revamped and it's like an adventure game, but it's kind of like you go from room to room and you grab keys and you know it's I really don't know. It was Zelda-like back in the day before Zelda was Zelda, right? Before anything like that advanced to the next level.
It was like Zork but with graphics.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's pretty much all I ever got to play, and you know, I just vaguely remember being allowed to play with it once in a while, and you know, a game controller back then, it literally looked like a television remote with a little joystick at the top of it, and you held it like it was very confusing. And then probably about the time I was 10 or 11, my dad finally got me for Christmas a NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. And I had that until I was 17 years old when my dad decided to buy me a PlayStation that had already been out for a little bit. So I didn't get to do any of the Super Nintendos. You know, friends, I played it, you know, Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, things like that. But then I remember I got a PlayStation, and I'm pretty sure my dad got it just for Gran Turismo because I would wake up in the middle of the night, he'd be at the end of my bed just grinding away at the races. And then from there, it was just kind of video games off and on. I left gaming for a while. Always kind of went back to my Nintendo. You know, always playing Nintendo games. I had so many. Even when I had a PlayStation, I still play my NES all the time. And then left. And then probably about the time I was, I don't know, 20, I want to say 26, 27, somewhere around there. I missed the first Call of Duty. I wasn't around, well, not first Call of Duty, but Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, when it kind of blew up. I hadn't gotten back into gaming yet, but when World at War came out, I had just picked up my Xbox. I had got Fallout 3. I was just blown away by all this stuff. You know, I used to only play sports games back in the day. I played NCAA football, I'd play Madden, I'd play NHL, and I'd play FIFA. And that was pretty much all I played as a kid from the other systems. But I got back into gaming, you know, off and on over the years. Really, really enjoyed it. Big Call of Duty fan every year. The whole midnight release. You know, I was the big groupie at GameStop waiting for the midnight launch and all that. And then, like a lot of people, COVID happened. I had a kid on the way that I was joint custody with, and I got into the streaming world. No idea what I was doing. I tried to do it with just an Xbox and a laptop. That was a disaster. Then I finally got a PC, wasn't very good, and messed with the Elgato capture card with my Xbox. Got so sick of that nonsense, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be a PC gamer. So when I realized I could play most of my games on PC that I was already playing, and I could just hook my controller up to it, and it played the same way, especially at the time Destiny had finally gone to PC. That's really what I was grinding out at the time. Yeah, it really just kind of changed what I was doing then, and then basically that's how you and I met.
Yeah, that's another story there.
Yeah, it's been a whole journey. We've done a lot of podcasts. Don't need to name them all. We've done a lot of fun shows over the years too. We did some game shows. Like you said, learned a lot. But here we are today. And now, actually, what's great is that I actually use what you and I have learned over the years, and that has gone into my professional job. I'm a sales rep for Sandals and Beaches Resort. And now I do podcast for the company, and I actually just won an award as social media and creator of the year. So listen, I'm going to flex a little bit.
I'm claiming half of that.
No, I give you a lot of credit.
I'm gonna take half the reward.
I did call you out on our red carpet reveal.
I want a free trip.
Listen, let me work some magic. Maybe y'all can get it where. Listen, I need my editor here. We need the editor and the sound guy here. So support. You could be the tech. You could be the tech guy. But yeah, so it's been a journey. So here we are, and AFK Chat, I think, is something that you had the rights to the name for a while, right? And then we just decided to use that.
Well, I started it when we kind of, I don't know. Let me backtrack. So, you know, for my story is very, very similar. I think it's similar in nature, but really what I got my first. Man, the NES. So I'm a little bit younger. So NES had already been out when I was born. So like it was already out for a year. I'm not that much younger than you, so it had already been out for a year. So like my dad wasn't a video gamer or any of that kind of stuff. So I got my first one when I was like 3 or 4 years old, when my dad finally bought the NES. It was like 4 or 5 years old
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah.
point. And this was like when consoles were coming out every 10 years, 50, like there's gaps. You didn't have like a console a year. Like there was a long time in between
Yeah,
them.
like I said, I couldn't even tell you when the Super Nintendo and 64 came out
Yeah.
because I was just
So
NES.
so he bought it, and like and it's funny because my forte into games is exactly like how my son, like I did the same thing my mom did with my son, is I would sit on the floor. Yes, we had to sit on the floor because the controllers were plugged in and the
Yeah.
couch was too far away. So me and my mom would sit on the floor and she would play, and my controller would be unplugged because I'm like 3 years
Yeah.
old. Like I can't play 3 or 4, so I can't play. So there's like home video of me jumping up and down, thinking I'm winning the game, and it's just my mom there, like, God, kid, please go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still playing this thing. I don't want to be playing this game anymore, but he's having fun, so I'm going to continue to do it. So, like, that's how I got started, was not playing. And then finally, we got N64 and those games, but I never was really into it. It was more sports. Like, played more sports, but
Yeah.
my friends would come over, sleepovers, we'd play, we play some games there. But what really got me started was the Game Boy. So when Game Boy came out was when like my gaming started going crazy, because traveling to baseball games and things like that, sitting in the car, like you didn't have the DVD player, it didn't have
Yeah.
those things. And if you did, it didn't last long because batteries sucked, and you couldn't bring enough like AAA batteries to power a whole movie with the portable DVD player. So I had the Game Boy, and didn't have any. I'd never had the advanced or any other ones, just like original Game Boy, and I would sit there and just play and play and play. Um, so then took a big break from games, didn't really do anything with it. Um, got through high school, started playing baseball. And what happened in college is I got hurt in college, and I had to redshirt a year. So I would go to class, come home, couldn't go to practice, couldn't do, like, I wasn't allowed to do anything because I had blown out my knee. So it's like there's nothing you could do until your knee recovers. So you have this very minimal training that you'd have to go in and do. And then I'd be back at basically the dorm room with all of the other guys out of practice still or traveling. This is exactly when, so we had the Xbox and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The first one had come out.
The fourth,
The
like
original.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Call of Duty Modern 4, I guess.
Yeah, whatever it is,
one.
yeah.
So Modern Warfare. So that one had come out, and game battles became big. So I had started playing and just started in the competitive world with game battles and continued playing. Not anything good. No one like didn't try to go pro or anything, but game battles was just there. So coming off of that, one of my other friends, probably, baseball didn't work out, all of those things, had to go get a real job, ended up working at Best Buy. And so what else do? You're a kid, you got nothing else, you go to Best Buy, you get a daytime job, started unloading boxes and stuff there. And finally, they found out, hey, you know a lot about video games and TVs and stuff, so go sell things on the floor. And I met one of my buddies who was playing World of Warcraft at the time. And then this was right when Burning Crusade was ending and Wrath of the Lich King was coming out. So you had Vanilla WoW, you had Burning Crusade, and now we're at Wrath of the Lich King. So your third expansion that you have. And I went all in. WoW, super big, like problem deep into it, where you see all the movies that they make of like 14, 15, 16 hours straight. Yeah, that was us. You would literally wake up, go to work your shift, go home, get online, and then play online until, oh shit, I gotta go back to work. Let me get an hour of sleep, and then do it over again for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Like this was going on. We were playing through those expansions. Then kind of had to make a choice of like, yeah, this isn't going to be good. This isn't healthy. So dropped out, didn't play a lot, and then slowly just got into the casual gaming scene again, started playing more. Call of Duty was still big, playing all those games. And like you said, COVID came in, hit, and it was like, what am I going to do? Let's let's do this streaming thing everyone's doing and trying to learn this thing. And I, again, not a PC gamer. Like, had PCs, knew how to work on them, knew all those things, but didn't PC game other than World of Warcraft.
I was gonna say you were the ultimate PC gamer.
But like, when you say that, I didn't have any of the other games. My PC was built to play World of Warcraft, and that's it. And I would get off of it and then go play Xbox.
Gotcha.
So like, I wouldn't even download the other game. I didn't even know what Steam was. I knew how to launch World of Warcraft and play, and that was it. And then I would go to my Xbox and play Xbox or PlayStation or whatever you had at the time. So from that, and that's kind of how we met, was through a friend's Discord.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know how that happened from there. Somehow we started talking about a podcast, did a thing with through two of your other friends.
Yeah.
And
we did an E3 live reaction on the Parents versus Gaming podcast.
That's it. Yeah.
And then we realized we have a lot more in common than we wanted to admit.
Yeah, and then we just started playing, and then just continued to go through there, and have gone through multiple iterations of those games. So that's kind of, how we got into it, how we came together. Started multiple different podcasts from that, like we had already talked about, and then kind of just took all of those skills that we've learned, all the things that we've watched, and we're just putting it all into this one here, and just focusing on gaming news, industry news, games that we like to play, and then just also the entire industry. I think that's the key, that we try to separate a lot of the other ones and do different pieces, but it all came back to like gaming industry.
Exactly. Yeah.
A podcast about The Last of Us or Halo would come out. We would say, oh, let's start a new podcast about the new Halo TV show. But it just gets too much. It becomes too much. Yeah. So here we're going to try to cover all of that, smaller segments, break it down, give you nice long episodes, but segmented in a way that you can get the news you want. You could flip through the podcast and only listen to a segment that you want to hear. Is it the new game review I want to hear? Is it the industry news? Is it just them bantering and going off on each other because they think each one's wrong, like we'll do here in probably the next 5 minutes, when we get into our questions that were submitted by a couple of my friends that had said, what should we talk about? I had given them those, and that
you gave them homework.
Yeah, I give other people homework. I don't come up with my own ideas. That's how that works. So is there anything else that I missed that we're going to cover, or that you want to get out of
if you're watching video and not listening on any of the podcast platforms around the globe, specifically Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I think are the two main at this point. Anyways, we are on TikTok, Instagram. We have 2 YouTube channels, a long form one and a one that is straight up only shorts, whether it's our gameplay from us playing or shorts off of the podcast. And we also have a X/Twitter channel. It's so weird to call it X. I don't care how long this goes. I'm still I feel like I always have to say, I know that it's something to do with his old company or his first thing or whatever, but how long is it going to be before we stop saying X/Twitter or Twitter/? I don't know if it'll ever stop. I always feel like I have to say Twitter. If I just say X, people won't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, it's when it's that built into your society and social norm, it's going to be a long time before that changes.
I mean, it would be like
it's going to take a young generation. We'll be gone before that.
Yeah, it would be like Zuckerberg changing Facebook at this point and just calling it B.
I think that's a better name than Facebook. Sorry.
Well, you're welcome, Mark. There you go.
Facebook. He dropped the.
Oh yeah, it used to be the Facebook.
The Facebook.
But what if he just called it a letter? What if it was V? Or Z?
That's the
catch us on Z.
Days.
Like I don't know. It would be weird. You'd still want to call it Facebook.
I mean, yeah. It took me a while to not call it the Facebook. Like I remember saying that, and my nephew was like, "Wow, you're old." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." I had a college.
Yeah, I had to get on there with my college ID.
College ID in order to do that. My wife was the So my wife was the second group that got on that he expanded it to.
Yeah, I was on the second group too. Yeah.
So yeah, she was in the second group, and like I wasn't. Like I was like, "What? My school's not in here yet? This sucks." I was on the third expansion.
Yeah, no, I was on the second expansion, and it was funny because back then it's weird. You know what's funny? Stuff that was cool back then, or at least what we thought was cool. I had so many friends from like Stanford and UCLA and USC and over at Manchester because it was like a race to who could have the most friends on Facebook. So you just
I mean,
but you chatted with those people. You didn't just add them. You'd be like, "Oh, what's your class schedule like?" What like you?
I remember that transition though, because it was like the MySpace top 10. Remember like the friends list, MySpace top 10, and the transition where MySpace was now it's only bands.
Yeah.
If you want to find a new band, it's there. But that was the place. I remember spending hours setting up MySpace.
You put like you could code a video game in it.
HTML.
Yep.
I learned HTML to be able to build a crazy MySpace page back in the day. That's how bad that
if you got on my MySpace, you could play Pac-Man on my page. Yeah.
Nice. I think I had Pong, but I wasn't as advanced to have Pac-Man. But anyway.
I'm sure I just watched some sort of video and copied what they told me to do.
But that was hard then. There wasn't like, I mean,
you can just pull up YouTube. Video. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. And then I had to wait 20 minutes for the page to load so I could watch the video.
Yeah, you had to you did that the day before. You started downloading that video the day before.
Yeah.
And then your mom got on the phone and cut off the connection and you couldn't do anything.
Absolutely.
Like the second phone line in the house was like the best in the world. I did play the dial-up sound for my kids the other day, and it was so funny. Like just looking at them being like, I have no idea what that was. The sound of dial-up. Like that's how you got to the internet.
Okay, kids. Listen, I do have a funny story about me and my brother trying to get on the internet once. So I definitely had a dad that was like, "It's your bedtime. You can't be up." But you know, when we finally got like a computer, it was set up in the family room, but my brother and I always wanted to be like to get on. Now, to be honest, I think probably just getting on AOL chat rooms or something like that. Something
Can
cheesy.
You imagine you like the home computer back then? You had one.
So, but because we didn't want to get in trouble, that noise was so loud. We used to go to the bathroom and get all the towels, and we would wrap up the modem and we would wrap up the PC as much as we could to try to quiet down the sound. Because it was so loud.
It was loud. It was, yeah. Like you knew what was happening. And the worst was when someone had to take a phone call.
Oh, my goodness.
And it just dropped right in the middle of it. And you're like, are you kidding me? And then they started running I remember the voice over IP. So like when you could use or it was actually a power line over IP.
Yeah.
So you could plug the phone line into this adapter that then plugged into an outlet. And then you put the other outlet in your room and you could take the phone line out of it and it would send the internet signal through the power line because it was just the same as any other line.
Absolutely.
And people, we've lost half of our audience. Right
now. They have no idea where. Yeah, exactly.
But going back to the questions, here we go. We have 3 questions that are coming in.
Okay.
I'm going to start with, what is your favorite gaming movie? There's only one right answer.
Well, that's
hopefully you get it right.
Yeah, listen, it's my favorite gaming movie.
There's only one right answer.
So but my right answer is perfect, and there's a reason. So I know you shut me up because I was trying to explain a little bit before. You know, I used to like a lot of different. I used to have a favorite. Not necessarily a favorite, but
is half the time our podcast is talked about before. James likes to give all his information out before we hit record.
I'm just excited.
He sits there and stares at the thing like, I got nothing to talk about. We already talked about this.
Okay, so what I was trying to say is that video game movies used to be so bad, like our younger generation. So I don't really know if I had a favorite.
Talk about the original Mario.
So my favorite movie, it hit me when you made me think about this, is currently the newer Super Mario Brothers movie, and I'll tell you why it's my favorite movie. Because my son has never played a real, he plays on his Kindle, so cheesy games and stuff like that, but not like what we would consider the mainstream video games. He loves Mario Brothers so much that my wife got him a Mario Brothers pajama suit, and he was like so excited. It was like Christmas all over again yesterday. I mean, he must have and he almost has the movie memorized. We've probably watched it 10 times in the last 2 weeks.
My son's favorite song is Peaches.
Oh my! He runs around the house yelling, singing Peaches all day long. That's what he's been doing the last 3 days. I got shared, I have shared custody with my son, so I don't get him all the time. But he, he loves it. He wakes up first thing in the morning, wants his breakfast. He's like, Mario, let's put Mario on while I eat my breakfast. He gets to the Peaches part. Yeah, so
we're into Pokemon now because we watched my son's a little bit older. My kids are a little bit older, so we got into the Pokemon detective movie now. My son it was all Pokemon Christmas.
Nice.
Like everything. I mean, he went from having 0 Pokemon cards.
The Ryan Reynolds, the Detective Pikachu movie?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That one. And then I showed him all the cartoon ones now, and he's all into those. But he went from 0 Pokemon cards. Kid had never seen one before. To after this Christmas, he has 3 binders full.
It's crazy.
3 Pokemon binders full. I mean, I don't even know where they're coming from.
That is something that has not died off like I thought that it would. It has continued to go. So what is your favorite video game movie?
So I have a tie. The new Mario Brothers movie is the tie of the one that I had because it is that good. Like it really is.
I mean, I think it's the top selling video game movie of all time, and it's one of the top selling movies of 2023, I believe.
It has to be. But throwing that one out as that just because of just the nature of the movie and just nostalgia as a kid and all the other stuff that Mario comes down with. The original Mortal Kombat.
It's so bad, but it's so good.
It's so bad, it's so good. But when I was a kid, like just the scorpion coming out of his hand and the freezing and the graphics and Goro, all of that, like it was just stunning to see. And then the new one, it was okay. I mean, they kind of went off story and kind of broke up some of the things, but Mortal Kombat still one of those movies I'll go back, and if it's on, I have to watch. Like I just have to watch it.
That's funny
that it's on.
Hey, it's good though. If you haven't seen it and you don't know what we're talking about, we're not talking about the new one. Go back and watch the old one to have a little bit of respect for the franchise.
Yes. Not the second one. There's not Annihilation or any of those. It's just Mortal Kombat. All right, into the next question. Top 5. Actually, let's leave that one. Guilty pleasure game. What is your guilty pleasure? The game you go back to that may be old, that has nothing to do, that if people are like, why the hell do you continue to play this thing? But you just keep going back.
I've bounced around a lot. I think over time, guilty pleasure game has really changed, and I don't want to. One of them is actually in my top 5, but I would say the closest thing to a guilty pleasure game currently, Ender, is probably No Man's Sky. You are on that all the time.
I
am, just because it's something that if I'm bored, but I want to play games, but you're not home and no one, a lot of my friends, they're diehard with Destiny and stuff, and I've kind of moved on from that. It's easy to jump into No Man's Sky, get my stuff, and maybe go to a planet, goof around for a little bit. It's just a chill, relaxing game for me.
Just like how you say that. I like just go to a planet, look around.
And I wanted I like Starfield. It was I like the game. But it does not give me, it is not fun to explore in that game, unfortunately. So it's not fun to just go to a planet and then do stuff. Maybe some changes will happen and it'll change, but of course a lot of people. But I did enjoy the story. I enjoyed the game. But for the guilty pleasure game, currently over the last probably 5 years or so, I don't remember exactly how long that game's been out, but it has probably been. I've played it on PlayStation. I played it on PC. I played it on Xbox. I play it in VR. It is just super chill out.
I had a VR.
I just sold it actually. I had an Oculus Quest 2. Yeah.
Interesting.
So what about you, Ender? Right. Your guilty pleasure game?
I mean, you could probably guess it.
I'm gonna guess it's the game you recently had me try with you.
Yes. Farming Simulator. 2020, what is it? 2016 is when it started. Then we went to 2019. Now we're at 2022. Nothing better. Best guilty pleasure game. If you just want to sit around, you're watching a TV show, you want to farm a little bit. And don't give me that. Your brother's right there with me.
Oh no, my brother loves it. But listen, it is the first game that I have put more than an hour into that I did not leave later and think, I can't wait to get back in there and do more.
I told you.
No, I'm saying I did not.
Now.
No,
you
no.
did.
I did not get that feeling.
No, you're lying.
At all.
You're lying.
Not even
you
a
got
little
that
bit.
Feeling.
There's nothing to build.
Oh, then you can build the entire. You can build in a whole map.
Yeah,
you can build
just a farmland.
Whole thing, or the whole farmland. You can do anything you want. You can build anything.
I can't build a house.
Gold mining. So you can build your own assets.
I can't even die in the game. I tried to run you over with a tractor just to have a little bit of fun.
Look, this is guilty pleasure, fun.
No, I get you. It makes sense for you.
I'm trying to run you over. The fact that the first thing you try to do is run me over with a tractor tells me where your mindset's already at. This is a goat simulator.
You probably already tried to run me over for fun. I just didn't notice.
No, I did not. Never would do that. Can't believe you.
You've killed me in every game that you can kill me in.
I think I have over 600 hours in the 2022
Yeah,
one.
That's why I went with No Man's Sky. I'm well over 1,000 hours in that game.
Yeah, that's just on Steam. I have no I started it on Xbox. So
on the Game Pass thing.
I haven't even combined the two. All right, now the big one. Top 5 video games of all time.
I love how those are our guilty pleasures, but we start the podcast with, when we play together, we play a lot of battle royale games. But here we are walking around a planet and farming.
But that's because you can't it's hard to try to focus on those games all the time. You have to be so locked in.
Yeah.
That it's just I don't want to be doing that. I play so many shooters, and even when you go around of Dead Rising or any of those games, it's I don't want to smash somebody's skull in. I'd rather just play a wholesome game. I just want something that's there. And then the other side to it is I learned things through I had no idea how hard it was to be a farmer, and I had no idea how non-lucrative it is to be a farmer and how much money you lose all the time.
Yeah, it teaches you a lot.
Constantly
that's for sure.
losing money on how I learned how to grow and harvest alfalfa. Didn't know how to do it, but they added it to the game, and now I know how to do it.
You think you could do it in real life?
Oh God, no. That's way too much work. I know the process. I know the machines that you would need to do it, but I am way too much of a wuss to get out there and actually do it. Hell no, way too much work. I know my keyboard and my controller. I'm not going out there to do it for real life. I have the ultimate respect for farmers now because of just looking at have you ever watched Clarkson's Farm?
Yeah.
Watching that show in its own right makes me realize no, I can't do that. No.
I grew up in the farm. I didn't live my family weren't farmers, but behind us
farmland.
Yeah, behind us was farm, and a lot of my friends the school I went to were all farmers, and
the only thing I helped my grandfather with on the farm was I would pick the chicken eggs and I would get the honey from the bees hives. That was it. Other than that, everything else was on him. I was 6 or 7 years old doing that. But no, I learned very fast when I had to lay tile with my dad. The first time we did that manual labor was not going to be for me, and I was going to find other ways to make a living. That's not
my dad was a contractor and remodeler, so I definitely had to help him a lot with that, and I never wanted to have that
I respect it to a 100% for the guys that do it. Ain't me. I'm not one of them.
No, I'm too big of a baby.
Top 5, starting with number 5. We'll go back and forth here. What is your number 5?
My number 5, this was my guilty pleasure all through high school and as a kid. Blades of Steel.
Good one. The hockey game.
It is the hockey game on the NES that I played. So funny. The where I live in near Dallas, Texas. In Plano/Frisco is the National Video Game Museum Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'm waiting for us to do our on-site walkthrough.
You got to get on a plane.
No, I'm not gonna do that. But you can have me on FaceTime while you walk through it.
But I've been there 3 or 4 times, and every time I go, there's always a couple. There's some older dad, or it's either a dad or a teenager playing Blades of Steel, and they're just playing by themselves. I'm like, oh, I'll play with you, and they're like, okay. And within minutes, they're like, wow, this is not that fun anymore. I probably have played 10,000 hours of Blades of Steel. I could beat the game with any team. I knew all the glitches. I knew everything about the game. I can literally score 20-something goals in a game against just about anybody.
Yeah, I never played it that much, but I remember, I want to say the first time I played it, I rented it from Blockbuster.
Yeah, probably.
And played it, and it was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is
was
fun.
the just the graphics back in the day. It looked so cool. It was a side-scrolling hockey game, and you could fight in it. You could fight.
Well, yeah, it set the precedent for all the games to come before.
Yeah,
like it was ahead of its time. They were definitely ahead of their time on that game. All right, my number 5, Super Mario 64.
So I actually never played it.
So like with the first kind of like 3D Mario game that we were going into, I don't know how many times I've played that game to completion. I don't know how many times I've played that game to completion to now. Like I still have an emulator of it, still play it today. Love it. And then when they put it onto the Switch, when they did the classics, the NES 64, started playing it again. Same deal. Like I think I know I can beat the game in 4.5 minutes because of just knowing where all of the little glitches and jump throughs are and how to get through it. But it was probably the first game that I like sat down and played all the way through and learned everything about. Because I had a friend that would always beat me to getting to like the next level or something like that, and I just was determined to finish that game before him. I never did, but that was probably my number 5. All right, you're 4.
No, you go 4. Let's.
All right, let me go to 4. Halo.
Okay.
And I just leave it open, like Halo,
the series,
straight up. Leave it open.
General.
The series, everything about it. Especially when you get into multiplayer, I will still tell you to this day, it is the best competitive multiplayer game out there. I don't give a shit about this Valorant and all the other fucking bullshit that people have out there. There is no better multiplayer game for competitive play than Halo. Hands down, hard stop, done. Especially when they bring back the old maps that you're playing on. And we will get into it, I am sure, in another episode, but would hands down destroy the entire industry if they would build a fucking battle royale. Rant over on that. We'll have another episode where I go off on that.
Listen, hopefully it happens soon. I keep waiting. You gotta imagine it's coming. But we've been
even
saying
the
that
shitty
for 5
one that
years.
they built in the Forge is better than most battle royales right now.
That's very true. My number 4 is Fallout 3. And if you listen to the beginning of this podcast,
I like that pick.
The reason, if you listen to the beginning of this podcast, I talked about I had a Coleco, then I had NES, and I just mainly played a lot of sports games, some random games.
Why 3?
But so I obviously never played 1 or 2.
Oh, okay.
So when I played, I didn't know what Fallout was. I had a buddy that we played World at War with all the time. So now I was getting into shooters. So of course I'm playing, and I played Halo with friends and stuff back in the day, but never really got into it like a lot of other people did. So, but when I played through the games, and I had my moments with Halo. I think I even rented an Xbox once with my brother. We were just blown away, like trying to figure out how to use the thumbsticks together was like a crazy thing. But Fallout 3 was the first time I had ever played something that wasn't a shooter or sports game. It was RPG. Yeah. And I'd never played anything like that before. So this blew my mind how I could make a character. And I actually used to sit on Xbox Party Chat with a buddy, and we would play it at the same time and go to the same places. Obviously, it's a single player game.
Yeah.
But like what even blew my mind even more, and he would like send me pictures because I would get someplace and be like, this is what it looks like. And then he would get someplace and some random thing would happen in his game and it would be completely different. I mean, it would look the same, but some sort of interaction. I was like, this is just absolutely mind blowing. To know that games, the story's kind of cheesy, whatever, but
won a lot of awards.
Game ended up being game of the year, but I had never. I mean, I lived in Vegas at the time. I worked at a casino, and it was the first time I had played a game really where when I was at work. So funny story, I used to have a big gambling problem. So when I took a job in Vegas, I was kind of nervous being in the casinos. But this game replaced my gambling addiction because I never wanted to stay after work at any casino to play poker, to do anything. I was just, as soon as I get off work, raced home and wanted to play more Fallout 3 because I just was so blown away. So that's me.
All right, you're number 3.
Number 3, Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. I was a huge. Oh, you're missing. I was a huge. I still am. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan.
And I never watched the show. My wife was into it. I'm not into the zombie shows, so
yeah. So I love it. No, it doesn't really correlate to the show, and it takes more of a comic book approach. And of course, this is the first time Telltale really getting on the map with their episodic.
Well, I mean, most people don't realize The Walking Dead was a comic book.
Yeah. So that's when I found out that it was a graphic novel comic book style. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play this. Like, I like The Walking Dead, and the thing I like about The Walking Dead is the people interaction, the story. So and then it was interesting because I never played a game where it's episodic. They'd put out episode 1, and then you have to wait a month for episode 2 to come out, and each episode was about 2 hours long. But it's the first game that actually made me cry. Like, I mean, I don't care if anyone makes fun of me, because almost every video game journalist talks about it. But like, I literally bawled my eyes out playing this game.
I mean, you're getting into more of games as cinema there.
Yeah,
like you're playing a movie. You're immersed in this character.
Yeah,
like the story. The story is what keeps you going in those games, and the immersiveness. So it's funny. So you go that way with your number 3. My number 3 is slide up the timeline farther in the world. Same concept of game. The Last of Us.
Yeah,
so that's my number 3.
Yeah. Which I'm not a PlayStation guy, so I never played it.
Yeah, I think you just played it, like when it just came out. Like,
just watch a TV show. I was gonna play it, but I didn't buy it.
Oh, you didn't buy it. I just go play it. Like, it's fucking.
I mean, I've watched people. I've basically watched the game besides the TV show. But
that's
great
just
game.
As fun as playing it. But yeah. The Last of Us, kind of for all the same reasons that you kind of said there, not the episodic or anything like that, but the engagement of the story and it was the first game where I didn't realize the cutscenes had happened.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing into it, a cutscene would happen, then I'd start playing, and I'm like, it's just smooth. Like they nailed everything. The music is phenomenal. The clickers, the show obviously is doing phenomenal as it is now. And like, I played this way before the show.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is when it came out.
PS3 before it even got upgraded to the PS4 version.
PS3. And I bought the game and beat it in the same day.
Because you couldn't stop playing.
I couldn't stop playing. I had to get to the
You
end.
wanted to know what was going to happen next. It's exactly. The story.
And it was also to where there's no stop. There was no like gap in the game to where you're just like, oh, this is getting boring. I'm going to go, I'm going to walk away from it now, and I'll come back to this later. Oh, this is the 17th time I've done this thing. No, it just immersed you from end to end.
It's like binging a TV show on Netflix or something, right? You just wanted to keep.
It is 100%. The show, we'll talk about that when it comes back out. But that's my number 3. So my number 2 is World of Warcraft. I don't need to go into it. It's too big of a game. It's been around forever, but it is yet to be unbeaten by anyone that's come in that arena for a massive multiplayer MMO game. No one has come close. And everyone else that has tried and has been this thing that's going to knock off World of Warcraft, they're gone. Their player base is gone. We're talking about at one point 10 million subscribers. We're talking you have to pay monthly to play this game. They had 10 million at the height of the game. And it is probably lore. I've read all the books.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the books. I watched the movie that they tried Still good as a fan, but could have been better. And when you say a game that's made you cry, this game has made me cry more times than not. Like the story, the immersing, everything that you have, even right now, and I'm not playing a lot, I follow the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will go watch guys play so I know what the story is and all the stuff that's happening with Anduin right now. And it's just unbelievable. And if you don't even want to play the games, fine. I don't care there. Go read the book series. If you are a fantasy book fan, read the book series. It's phenomenal because they write the books before they make the game.
Yeah.
It's all based off of that. The lore is so in depth into these characters because it's 15, 16 years old now. Like we've been doing this for a long time and it still reinvents itself and continues to be on the top of its genre. Your number 2.
My number 2 is probably going to surprise you. It was my ultimate guilty pleasure game back in the day. It is Super Mario Brothers 3.
I can understand that game. I understand it. I didn't realize you played it that much.
Oh my god! It's probably the game that I may
my
have
wife can
put
have
the
a
most
challenge on who's played it the most.
It was probably the game I ever played the most on the NES because the sports games you could only play so long. They weren't as in depth as they are today, right? Like
no, you didn't have
play for like an hour. So, for those if you're younger, you got to remember the NES and Mario Brothers 3 is out before the mainstream internet. I don't want to sit there and definitively say there was no internet. I don't remember the timeline. You had what was called the Nintendo Power magazine. And a game would come out, and then maybe a month later you get the next version of Nintendo Power. If you could find it, or your parents, if you didn't have a subscription, you had to go try to find it someplace. And then maybe you would get like one hint, one cheat in the magazine about their newest game. And so Mario Brothers 3 has a lot of hidden...
You never did the call center?
I did do the call center once, yes.
Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got in trouble for doing the call center.
So before, kind of like you had that, but before you had the internet and YouTube, Nintendo actually made a call center that you could call into and they would help you
through
the game, through a level, and beat the level or the game that they had. And it was hard to get that job. Like it was hard. You had to know these games inside and out. And that was all through Nintendo Power. The Nintendo Power magazine set up those call centers.
So it was the first game, like I said, for those that don't know, it was the first game that had a lot of games had Easter eggs and tricks and hidden plays, but as far as a mainstream game, it's the first one I played anyways that had, this game has so many hidden levels. Remember, and I think just literally on the third level, you can duck down and go behind. Yeah, they weren't glitches.
We're not talking about glitches.
Purposeful.
This is purposeful.
You could go behind the map.
Yeah.
And so what's funny,
it was screwed in.
Yeah.
And you could just
and what's funny is that once you realize you could do it, now you spend the next week in every level trying to see if you can go. And there are other places you can go behind, but that's all you do because there is no mainstream internet. Learn all the cheats an hour after the game comes out or an hour even before the game comes out. So it was a lot of trial and error. And then you talk to your friends and one of your friends would go, oh, I found this. And you go home and try it. And then you tell them what you found. So it was a lot of interaction that way.
So very interesting. Nintendo Power last episode was our issue was in 2012, started in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
That has got to be some kind of ridiculous record there for putting out magazines for that long.
I wonder how long Game Informer, because I think they still have a
Game Informer has been around a while, but I remember Nintendo Power being one of the first ones, and then I remember the first Nintendo Power that had the crossover with Sega.
Oh my god, yeah,
that
blew everybody's mind.
It was just insane. Okay, so that was my
number two. So number 1, this probably changed. At this point, I had already played Fallout 3, so I've been introduced to this type of game. But number 1 for me is the Mass Effect series. Because like I said, the Fallout 3 story I do find it is pretty cheesy. But the Mass Effect series, to me, took what I liked about Fallout 3, put it in a better story, also put it in space, and I'm a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan, so I was
in space,
mind blown that this was a thing. And then on top of it, they got 3 games where they're all connected. Now, I don't want to get into the endings, obviously extremely controversial, but just mind blowing that I could be playing Mass Effect 2, and I've got a character in my game, and Ender, you could be playing Mass Effect 2, and we both played 1, but you made decisions in 1 where certain characters were killed, and they're alive in my game in Mass Effect. Completely different game. They're alive in my game. They're not alive in your game because they died in the first one. Like, it just, or different characters alive in your game that died. Like, it just blew my mind. And the story, to me, is so great. The ending, blah, 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 whatever. But it's kind of like one of the, a TV show you like 7, 8, 9 seasons. You just can't, there would be no ending you can make that is satisfactory, right? Because it's gone on too long.
No, and I mean, like, you have to, I think in order to make an ending good, you have to write the ending first. Like,
And
you have to
to
know what it's going to end and then lead everything up to it. Rather than what I think a lot of TV shows, like, everyone looks at the TV shows and things like that, and they're like, oh, that one ended great. Well, they wrote the ending first.
Yeah.
Like, they
limited the amount of seasons too, right? Because a lot of times these networks
they
get
knew
involved.
when it was going to end.
Well, these networks get involved and
they
make it. They're like, no, we want more seasons. There's viewers watching.
Well, as you go to that's what I'm saying. Like, you go there and say, this is a 5-season series. I've written the ending. This is how it's going to end. We'll start there. We'll fill in everything between, but we are going to end at 5. We're going to end at 3. It has to have an end. That's why I think some of your best shows right now are your miniseries.
Yeah, of course.
You're like, there's 9 episodes. There's 5 episodes. That's all there's ever going to be, and they're phenomenal. The Queen's Gambit is one of the examples there of just phenomenal show. But you knew the ending. Like, they started that backwards and they built it that way. So it's funny you go with Mass Effect. Not funny, but my game is similar. It's very similar in that,
because I thought it would be Warcraft for you, but
so Warcraft would be like that, but the one that blew me away more than any other game, and one that I think to this day, if I was going to recommend anyone to play a video game for first time, like, I have never played video games, I don't know anything about them. What game should I go play? This is the one that I would recommend to them, and it's Fable. Fable, so hands down.
The original or any of them?
The original, Fable 1. I don't know. I don't think 2 and 3 and everything.
I love 2 is my favorite, but 3 is weird.
2 was great. 2, they were, but nothing hit me like Fable 1. And the reason why, and I think it's the same reasons Mass Effect hit you. Your decisions mattered. Whether you're going to play evil or good. Not to the degree of Mass Effect. I think Mass Effect took that concept and blew it up even more by, like you said, changing the game completely. Like, you could play Mass Effect 5 times and play it completely different.
Yeah.
And get things that you didn't do in the first.
Because you could also build your character differently.
Correct. And Fable's not like that. Like, Fable, it's still a linear story that they're taking you through. But the way you could, again, the story behind it, the different ways you could play, you're good, you play it again as evil, then you play it in as neutral, making the decisions on what side quests you did changed what you could do as you're moving forward in the game. Like, if I didn't do this side quest, I can't go up to the top of the dungeon. I have to go to the bottom dungeon. Like, because I made this decision earlier in the game that I cannot change now. I've made that decision. I've locked myself in. Like, I am playing as a bad guy. I can't go back and be a good guy and change how it's going to work. I've made the decision, and I have to play the game through that decision. And I always say, if you're going to start your gaming world, go to Fable, because you're going to get immersed in a story. It's not that hard to play.
No, it's not simple, a lot of simple
complexities. There's not many buttons that you have to learn. You got a couple of spells that you're going to play, but your storyline is phenomenal. And I'll even throw like the lost chapters in there as well. So like that was the add-on to the original Fable game. So Fable and the lost chapters. But my number one is definitely Fable all the way. If I had a 1 and 1B, like, I think that's where Fable and World of Warcraft really hit for me. But those were the games. That's us. Anything else you want to let people know before we get out of here for this?
Yeah, I
first
think the
episode
cool
that's
thing
supposed to be
about
30
our
minutes and 1 hour.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about our game, our top games each, is that you can play them on Xbox Game Pass. So shout out to the best cloud gaming platforming out there.
No, some of them, Halo and Fable.
No, you can play Mass Effect.
Oh, our
I
top
said
games.
our top games.
Our
top
games. I
games.
said
Yeah.
all the games.
World of Warcraft coming to Game Pass soon, guaranteed.
Hey, dude,
they bought Activision Blizzard. It's coming to Game Pass.
It might happen. And The Last of Us, you can play online now. At Mario 64, if you got a Switch, you can play it. So all those and that's subscription fee. You can play those, all the Mario games, even Mario 3, Super Mario 3, you can play. All right, so this is going to be our episode. This is our first one. We're back. My name's Ender. The guy over there is James. Have a good night, evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this. See you later.